It's a great pleasure to be here. I'm a bit shy after we've had these sort of esteemed VCs that have been here this morning and spoken to us. But my role, I think, was to speak a little bit about the Icelandic ecosystem. We've heard a lot about sort of international ecosystems and what else we need here in Iceland. And maybe some of what I said may echo what was heard by the Brads this morning. But hopefully I can give you a good overview of what we're doing here in Iceland and also question some of the things that are in place today and what challenges lie ahead for us. I sort of first wanted just to give you a little bit about our fund. I mean, you are entrepreneurs, you are our customers, so I also want to welcome you all to come and speak with us. So if you learn a little bit about our fund, then hopefully you'll know who you're talking to when you come to look for funding. I also wanted to go over the sort of Icelandic venture ecosystem, and this is very much from the perspective of an investor. And then finally, I wanted to sort of highlight what I believe is the greatest challenge for Icelandic startups, and that's a scalability challenge. How do you grow big businesses from Iceland? So if we just begin with a picture of our team. That we're actually where we work, there are two funds that work together, NSA and Frumtak, and we work very closely. We have a 10-person team, and I think about 5 of us should be here today. So if you see anybody in this picture that you recognize from this picture, please feel free to come up to us and ask us for money, and we'd be happy to talk. So just to give you a little background on NSA Ventures, we are the oldest venture fund in Iceland. So that means highlights how young the venture economy is here in Iceland. We were founded in 1998. We are a seed and early stage investor, which means we are usually the first fund or first institutional investor that comes into a company. Currently, we have a portfolio of 39 companies. The size of the fund is Icelandic kronur 5 billion, which please don't convert that to other currencies because at the moment that's quite low in most other currencies. But we're working on strengthening the krona. And we invest directly in early stage businesses, and we also invest in other funds here in Iceland because we really believe we need a variety of funds to have a sustainable ecosystem. Also, I was clearly reading the same airline magazine as Ted earlier. Our 39 companies export to 60 markets all over the world. And again, this shows you that you can build good export companies from Iceland. And as I will come to later in my talk, the challenge is making that export sustainable and growing it in scale. Our portfolio is mostly IT and health technology. I think there are a lot of opportunities in these two areas, but we are not sector specific, so we have invested in production technology, creative industries, and machinery. We also invested in 3 other funds in Iceland. Our biggest investment is in Frumtak. We own 38% in Frumtak. We share offices with them, and we work very, very closely together with them. Frumtak is a growth fund, so they usually do follow-on investments from us. There is another fund here in Iceland called Auður Capital, which has a focus on female entrepreneurs, and we own a 4% stake in that fund. And then there's Thule Investment, which is an investment fund that has, I think, more or less stopped investing, and we have a 2% holding in Thule Investments. And we have our holdings in these funds along with Icelandic pension funds and banks. We also want to be a catalyst for investment. So when we invest in a company, we really try to attract other investors alongside us. And we, both in 2010 and 2011, we managed to get 1 billion kroners into all the investments. We invest for about 700 million kroners a year. And other investors came with 1 billion kroners alongside us. Now, for us, that is very, very important because we believe there isn't enough money going into early stage venture here in Iceland. So if we can help to attract money, I think there's more for everyone. And most of this money comes from angel investors. If we look at sort of how we see the ecosystem here, I think, this is sort of a outline that I think many of you have seen. This is how sort of the venture food chain works here in Iceland. Most, companies that start up, they have grants. You can go to something called Tækniþróunarsjóður and Rannís and get grants to develop your ideas there. Then usually companies find angel investors, and they're actually becoming, I think now after the financial crisis, easier to find. We are the first institutional investor. Frumtak is a follow-on fund, and they come with funding after us. Typically, we will put $200,000 to $1 million into a company. Frumtak comes with more money to follow us. Then Thule and Auður are a bit later in the cycle. And then we also work with a host of international investors. And I think this is something that we really need to encourage and grow. And it was heartening to see the Brads here this morning, and nice to know that they're thinking of Iceland as an investment opportunity. So if we look at sort of the strengths of the venture economy in Iceland, the fact that we have a small market is great. As we heard Ted say earlier, it's very, very easy to build networks in Iceland. So we're very happy initially with the size of the market. But it's also a challenge to be from a small market. As we know, there is no home market. So we all have to be, all our businesses that we invest in have to be born global. And anybody who's tried to start a born global business knows it is much harder to grow a business outside your own country than within your own country. But at the same time, if it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger. So hopefully, in the long run, we'll have very, very strong international businesses. There's very low bureaucracy in Iceland, and compared to many other countries I've lived in. So I think that it makes it very, very easy to start a business. At the moment, we have a talented workforce, that goes without saying, and we have competitive salaries at the moment, given the krona exchange rate. Iceland is a country of early adopters, so if you're trying to develop a new technology, you always have a willing test market here, and people here trying to sort of look at trends and follow trends. I think there is a good access to early stage funding. Not enough, but there's access to it through grants and through a fund like ours and angel investors. I think good companies can find early stage funding. Also, I think here in Iceland, we are patient investors and have traditionally have been willing to wait for startups to build their system. We heard the Brads talk about the 20-year cycle. The oldest investment in our portfolio is from 1998. And I know if you look at sort of US funds or British funds, often they make force companies to grow a lot quicker, whether that be a good or bad thing. I also think at the moment, following the financial crisis, there's a lot of recognition and appreciation for people that start companies. I think founders have all of a sudden, people have realized that, founders of technology companies and high growth companies are really brave people working very, very hard, which will do long-term good for the Icelandic economy. So, and I think we are seeing a period of creative destruction here in Iceland. I think, the Icelandic banking crisis in some ways was very, very good for the venture ecosystem. There has been, again, this shift in social attitudes. I've been working with startups since 1999, and you sort of like 1999, you wanted to be in the startup sector. 2002, everybody thought you were crazy. Even 2004, 5, 6, 7, why aren't you working for a bank? Why do you want to work with startups? And I think now people realize that, again, if you have the courage to found a company and an ability to grow it, you are a very brave, hardworking person and should be recognized as such. I also think in certain extent there's a reversal of the brain drain. Until the financial crisis, everybody wanted to work for a bank. A lot of the money was going into also just trading on the stock exchange. Now, I think high net wealth individuals are willing to put part of their investment into startups. I also think that a lot of people don't want to work for banks anymore, and I think that is a very, very good thing. And so I think as an investor, I think we're seeing a lot of new opportunities. And I also think these opportunities come with recession because, there's a lot of cost cutting in government and in businesses, and that makes it, and often that means that companies want to buy a new type of technology. And so I think there's a lot of opportunity for technology companies that sell to government and businesses to help companies cut costs. And then I also think there's an attitude in Iceland, which is this kind of can-do attitude. And I can't find an English word for it, but it is this koma svo. And I think maybe we used it in the wrong way in the financial sector, but I think it's something that really, really, really belongs in the venture sector. And you can, even in the deepest recession in 2009, you could just see people were rolling up their sleeves and just saying, we're just going to go on and do it. And I think it's something that really, really works for the Icelandic venture ecosystem. So I think on the whole, if I just take the big view, I think in Iceland, venture really is thriving. We see export-driven growth, we see increasing angel investment. We, at the fund, see international investors coming into our companies at all stages, and companies like Össur, Marel, CCP that survived the financial crisis, they really are role models for entrepreneurs today. We know that you can build well-managed, high-growth, exciting businesses. And I think on the whole as well, if I look at from a fund perspective, you know, we are doing well as funds. You know, we are getting exits, both local and international. We see at NSA a quality of investment opportunities, great teams that are coming to us. And the total turnover of our portfolio companies is growing. So we're relatively happy investors. But this is not with the Icelandic venture community is not without challenges. So I think the biggest challenge is the scalability challenge. You can build a really good little business in Iceland and you can get that early stage funding. But how do you grow international long-term large businesses from Iceland? Is that possible? And this is a quote from Eric Schmidt of Google. And here he was talking about European venture in general. And he says there's a little point in getting 1,000 seeds to sprout if they're then left to wither because they just can't grow any further, or transplanted overseas. And I'm not saying that Icelandic businesses should be from A to Z based in Iceland. I think we all have to build our overseas offices, and even the majority of the business can be in Iceland. But I think it's very, very important, as with Össur and as with Marit and as with CCP, as they grow internationally, they also grow in Iceland. And I think, you know, if one hears a lot of running terminology around venture investment, I don't know why. I think maybe a lot of investors and entrepreneurs are marathon runners or something, because I keep bumping into runners in this section. But then you often hear that, you know, starting a company is like running a marathon, and obviously we heard the Brads talk about the 20 years and everything like that. And then I think about, how do we build marathon runners in Iceland? And you kind of look at all the programs in place to help people, entrepreneurs. And if you look at the names of these programs, it's always first step to do this, first step to do that. And that's also very important. And it's very, very good that you help people when they're starting a business. But if you're only going to help people take the first steps, how do you train the marathon runner? And also I have a question, if, you know, having flirted with entrepreneurship. I won't say I was an entrepreneur, but I have flirted with entrepreneurship myself. And when I was starting a business and I just needed a little bit of money just to take a little bit of risk, and I sort of looked at the ecosystem, and everything there was like, we will give you money to attend this course. We will help you write a business plan. We will train you to do this. And I was thinking, I just need 3 million kroners to do this one specific thing that nobody can train me to do. I know exactly what I want to do with it. And in the end, I just used my own money. But it was a very useful exercise for me, because then you sort of realize that maybe there are too many willing helpers. And rather than have, you know, and it felt a little bit like, you know, there's an ecosystem that is there to, you know, that wants companies to fuel the ecosystem, rather than the ecosystem is there to help the companies. And I think this is a reflection of, again, what the Brad said, you know, the feeders and the leaders. I think, you know, do we have too many feeders and not enough leaders? I don't know, and I leave this as a question for you, the entrepreneurs in the audience, who may be sort of living through this. And I think this is something, being a feeder or a manure driveler or whatever investors are. Myself, I think this is something that's very important to us, is we, you know, our customers are entrepreneurs, and we're here to help them, not vice versa. And then, so that sort of got me thinking about this marathon. And I really, really, really think that we need some sort of help to sort of train marathon runners in Iceland. And so these businesses can last and keep on growing and building over the next 10 years. And I really think we need sort of more of the ecosystem needs to support the growth of businesses, not just helping people start businesses. And it would be really, for me, it would be interesting to hear from you, the entrepreneurs, what kind of help you feel that you need to run that marathon. and I think a lot of the founders of businesses that I see, they need mentors, people that have, former marathon runners. And again, these serial entrepreneurs, we have a few of them in Iceland, but maybe we don't have enough. And they don't have to be Icelandic, but somebody who's done this before, who can tell you, how to pace your marathon, how to do it. And I also think we need to look at the talent pool. Do we have a big enough talent pool to grow international businesses in Iceland? I heard a Danish investors say that in Denmark they have a talent puddle. So I don't know what if Denmark doesn't have a pool, only a puddle, what does Iceland have? And I also think we again need to look at our immigration laws so we can attract talented people that want to come live in Iceland and help us build businesses or sit on boards of Icelandic businesses. Because we're growing international companies, we need an international talent pool. I also think we need to work with international investors. And again, I was very happy to see the Brads and other investors here for this conference, because I think, Icelandic investors are great. I say this as an Icelandic investor. But I think we also need to work and build bridges, because sometimes you need investors with specialized talent or deeper pockets than we have. And so I think sometimes it's not a marathon, it's a relay race. And I think even though the founder stays with a company, the investors may change, the management may change. And so I think, it's not just about marathon running, it's also about running a relay race and handing the torch, knowing when your time has come and handing the torch over to somebody else. Another thing that we haven't really tapped in Iceland, but I think could be very, very important for all prospective marathon runners, is First North, the Icelandic Stock Exchange. There are no startups that are sort of looking at raising money through IPOs. Can we grow companies that can raise money through IPOs? And I think that would help us build sustainable companies in Iceland. And if you look at companies like Össur, who had their first IPO over 12 years ago, the IPO is what helped them grow internationally. And we have been working, and these are some examples of companies that have gotten international investors from US, Germany, Norway, and I think those are the countries that have invested in companies that we've worked with in the past. And it's nice to see that there are international investors willing to come to Iceland. These are quality investors, but I think we need more of them. And often these investors come with a set of skills or deeper pockets or networks that we don't have here in Iceland. And I also sort of wanted to look at three businesses that we're invested in that I think really need have a great potential to grow. Technology is right time, right place, and the passion, as the Brad said, is there with the founders. But I think but they're sort of consumer internet companies, so they need to grow quickly. And they need to reach a wide audience. And it's my question also to you entrepreneurs is, can we do this from Iceland? The first company is Kuri, which is a radical new way to learn languages. This is the founder, Arnar Jensson, who, the company has launched its first software, which teaches English speakers Japanese. It's based on speech recognition. Fantastic company, great team, done with heart and passion. Fantastic opportunity, but it's a consumer internet play. And I think for that, to market that, you really need deep pockets. So I was hoping the Brads would be here and they would invest in this, but I will have to speak to them later. Another example of this is Infomentor. Again, the president mentioned this in his speech. If you have children in school in Iceland, you know them as Mentor. Great technology, great network of schools in Sweden, Switzerland, Iceland. At the moment, they're just selling to schools. They have the opportunity to sell to parents and sell content online and things like that. But to do that, again, you need deep pockets and you need to move fast. But fantastic technology, fantastic founders. Again, this is Vilborg Einarsdóttir, one of the founders of Infomentor there, and just everything is done with heart and passion and, in my mind, just the way a startup should be, but again, we need deeper pockets. And finally, GoGogic, which is a gaming company, which many of you may know, is it with the right technology at the right time. And again, we need to have, and with gaming, I think it becomes very, very interesting is how you grow gaming, because again, that's consumer internet really. And again, we need these international partners for this company. So those are just examples of a few of our portfolio companies that I think we're looking to find international investors or partners for. And that is it. So thank you very much.